Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the GOWEN Racing Podcast 2025 edition. We're back for episode 3, a few days later than usual on a Thursday evening. We're recording this. We'll be going out Friday on the platforms and whatnot. We are coming off of a few days after Atlanta, and a bit to talk about there, as well as some specific moments, including Kyle Larson and Larson and Cindric coming together. Carson Hocevar was a very popular topic. Jay and I are very passionate about groups of young drivers coming up through the field, and Hocevar will be a good topic to, of course, kind of to go on about, especially after this weekend, as well as Circuit of the Americas coming up this weekend in the all-new layout and what we expect we might see there. It was a really interesting weekend of NASCAR racing that just passed by us. Jay is here. Only Jay last week we had Matt O'Brien join us, but it's just the powerful duo, Jay and I. Jay, how are we doing tonight?
We're doing pretty all right. Once again, another week of discussing NASCAR topics, and looking forward to this weekend at COTA. Don't really know what the track layout is. I'm not looking forward to it as far as iRacing goes. I've yet to touch it. I refuse to touch it on iRacing. But as far as the real thing goes, I think it'll be fun. COTA was fun previously. I don't know how the new layout's going to be, but hopefully it's going to be fun. IndyCar back this weekend as well. That'll be nice.
We can touch on IndyCar a little bit as well later on, as they are. Yeah, they're back this weekend. Actually, before we really dive into it, I ran like the new layout of COTA on iRacing, like as close as you can do it. With like the AI, and it's certainly interesting. But I'll talk about that, I guess, later. But I don't know. I don't know how the race is going to be this weekend, but we'll see. I think it could kind of suck, but I'll explain why later. But we're going to kick things off. I think it's going to be a bit of a shorter show tonight, which we've been kind of aiming for. We want to keep it to an hour and a half or so, or less, instead of closer to 2 hours. Let's dive in to Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, last week, I remember we talked about what do we expect for Atlanta, and if I remember correctly, we were kind of on the side of it was probably going to look like what it did last time we went to Atlanta, and I would say that's pretty well exactly what we got. I mean, before we dive into specifics, Jay, just the Cup race specifically, I think we both agreed. I mean, that was a banger, and for me, that's like everything that you want from super speedway racing. That we can't seem to get at like Daytona or Talladega. Atlanta delivers exactly that.
Yeah, Atlanta, the reconfiguration of that track, especially as it ages, is really, really growing on me. Especially being there in person for the last couple of years. Wasn't there this past weekend, but still going there in person, seeing the way it is on TV, doesn't matter. A race in Atlanta is thrilling, especially in the Cup Series. Xfinity and trucks need some help with the package. They need some help for sure, but on the Cup Series side, it is, like you said, it's exactly what fans were asking for between the week from Daytona to Atlanta. It is in the driver's control while also still being in a pack. There's a lot the drivers and the teams can do to make the cars handle better, to drive a certain way, and it really will affect how the race goes. And it's not all about just kind of luck and you're all driving the exact same car like they are at Daytona and Talladega nowadays. So the Cup race on Sunday was a lot of fun. I just wish we could fix trucks and Xfinity on Saturday.
I didn't see the truck race. The only thing I saw from trucks was the finish, like literally the last quarter of a lap through 3 and 4. I just saw a replay of it, so I don't really know what happened there. But obviously Kyle Busch picks up his first win in any form of NASCAR series this year. I heard he kind of just cakewalked the field. No one really had anything for him, and he was just kind of playing with everybody. Did you actually watch the race, or?
Yeah, I was watching it. It was a bit back and forth, but yeah, when Kyle had his moments to get up to the front, he was definitely in control of that race. And then, I mean, he was definitely in control for the last couple of laps as well. He perfectly executed his moves, set up, I think it was Friesen who he won over. He set up Friesen really smartly in 3 and 4 on the final lap to get a run off of the corner and win. So again, it's a track where things are in the driver's control, and Kyle Busch did what he needed to do to win that race, and just outsmarted Friesen with the side draft. So the truck race wasn't as bad as previous years. Previous years, it has been just straight up single file the entire time. There was a bit of side by side racing that two lines could work at different times, but It still wasn't as good as the Cup race and then Xfinity. Well, that was the Austin Hill show as usual at Atlanta. They refused to pass him at Atlanta, so that was still pretty bad as well.
The Xfinity race. I was driving home during the Xfinity race, but I got like a little phone holder thingy that goes in like the air
Yeah,
vent,
yeah.
and so like I had the race on there, watching it when I was going home. And honestly, like outside of the Austin Hill dominance, I think that it was a way better Xfinity race than it was last time we went to Atlanta.
Yeah,
Um, but
I agree. They were both better than previous years, but they still could use some help. And it just, I know that they are not trying to give the win to Austin Hill, but it just for some reason feels like the Xfinity drivers refuse to beat him in Atlanta and refuse to pass him. I don't know what it is, but they just, they all forget how to pass when they see him in the lead at Atlanta.
well, I saw some say, was it Denny Hamlin? I think it was on his podcast, and I agreed. It kind of like they'll get up to second, like they'll fight each other, they'll get to second, but then they're too scared or hesitant to make a move on Austin Hill. So then they just end up getting themselves fighting again with the car behind them, and then it just allows like Austin Hill to just do whatever he wants and like completely control the race because no one is willing to make a move on him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same thing on the final restart of the race. Allgaier had a perfect
Oh,
opportunity,
choke.
I believe it was to go to the outside and just get right around him. And Austin Hill just he didn't, and Austin Hill took advantage of the situation. Like he said in his interview, I got a gift, and that won me the race. And Allgaier 100% had the move to at least put himself in position to win that race, and he didn't, and just handed it to Austin Hill.
Yeah, he absolutely threw that one away. In that number 7, the defending Xfinity champion, he certainly was a little bit hesitant. I don't even know where he finished in that race. Actually, pull up the Xfinity Series
Somewhere in the top
finishing
5, I would
results.
assume.
I would imagine. Oh, he finished second. Okay.
Okay.
And we do have as well caution controversy to talk about again this week. Unfortunately, hopefully it's done with and we get some consistency now. But we will talk about exactly that. The Xfinity race ends under green. We have a crash that was, I would say, more
Pretty
violent.
significant.
Yeah, it was more violent than the last lap of the 500 crash, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That one also stayed green, of course, in the 500, but this crash was in my opinion far more significant. We stayed green again, and as a fan, I see both sides of it. If you're a driver, you want a caution there because it's unsafe. As a fan, I don't care about a caution. I wanted to race to the end. But I'm also okay with a caution coming out as long as that's something we're going to consistently do. Because then we know there's going to be a caution instead of playing that guessing game that we're doing every week. But obviously, they let it race out. Austin Hill ends up winning anyway, so it didn't change anything there. But then the very next day, we end up in a similar situation, which we'll get to momentarily. So we talk about the Cup Series, and as we already mentioned, fantastic race. Everything we kind of want out of super speedway racing that we can't seem to get at a Daytona or a Talladega. And as well, we get the 3 wide action as well, Jay, without those guys having to save fuel. I mean, they can go all out and they can make all 3 lanes work. And as well, I mean, we see the guys, they're able to go through the pack. But as well, I feel like it almost brings back the drivers that are really skillful at super speedways can kind of take over again. I feel like Larson and Cindric, though, he's quickly becoming like the guy at super speedways that's just always controlling them.
Yeah, that you said exactly what I was about to say, that it puts a lot back into the driver's hands like we used to get when Daytona before it was repaved, and just with the old packages and the old cars as well, it puts a lot back into the driver's hands. And Hamlin's mentioned it on his podcast as well. Cindric specifically is a really smart plate racer. He's not going to throw the big aggressive blocks, but he is going to put himself in position to be able to lead lines, to be able to lead races, to be in a really good position at these super speedways. And he's done a really nice job of it, especially at Daytona and Atlanta so far this year. I mean, he was in contention for a majority of both of those races, and then obviously there's the drama that happened with Larson a little bit later. But Cindric and Penske as a whole, Penske and Ford as a whole overall, I feel like are by far the best team and best organization at these plate tracks. And then you look at the individual driver, and some of them stand out above the rest. And I would say Cindric and Blaney are up there, top three, top
Yes.
five, if not top three plate racers. And when you go to a track like Atlanta, where the drivers have a lot to say and a lot to do with how the race plays out, a guy like Cindric and Ryan Blaney and a few others, like Hamlin maybe as well, will get to the front and they will have their say in how the race plays out.
And we talked about like Cindric, but what sucks is I can't remember the last time he had a finish to show
Yeah,
for him
yeah, that
controlling
is
these
true as well.
races outside of when he
Maybe
won the
maybe
Daytona
when he
500.
won the 500,
Yeah,
that might be the only one.
which is crazy to think. And he ended up, I think, he ended up 28th in Atlanta after being in control of a lot of that race. And yeah, Fords were just on it as well. I mean, we saw difference in setups where some teams were aiming for more speed, some teams, Toyotas, it seemed like were aiming for more handling, like Joe Gibbs specifically, Denny Hamlin. And it just seemed
Yeah,
like
they all qualified outside the top 25.
yeah, they were
I think,
terrible.
or something like that. They were bad in qualifying. They were terrible.
But it seemed like, I mean, although a Toyota won with Christopher Bell, for the most part, it seemed like going with the speed seemed to be kind of the ideal way to keep yourself up front, especially with the Penske cars specifically and those Fords. But it's you did see it as the stage went on, which I thought was really cool. Was as the stages went on, you could kind of see those cars that set up for handling were just slowly starting to kind of go further and further forward. And I don't know, I just thought it was really cool to see like the difference in dynamics on a super speedway type race play out.
But I think the problem with it this time specifically with it not really showing up that much as far as the cars that were set up for handling is mainly the temperatures were down a lot more
Yeah, there was a lot of grip too,
than
right?
they were the last few years, and especially compared to the summer race as well. So yeah, there's a lot more grip with the temperatures being down. So if they come back in the summer race and those teams bring the exact same setup, they're going to get totally different results, I think. So I think temperatures, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think temperatures maybe had a bigger part in that than people realize. And maybe even the teams realize as well. Although the forecast was, I mean, it was there all week. It showed that it was going to be pretty cold, but maybe they wanted to try it anyways, and it didn't work out for him. But obviously, it worked out for Bell. They weren't dominating the race, but Christopher Bell was there at the end, put himself in position, and he won the thing. I think he would have lost if they had
He
gotten all the way to
led
the line.
like 3/4 of a lap.
But yeah, exactly, and that was enough to win. And I think Blaney as well. Blaney and Hocevar and a few others. This is skipping ahead a little bit, but I think they were also on new tires compared to the rest of the field at the end, and you could really see that also made a big difference as well. And Hocevar, I think, even if he had no help, I think he would have won that race because of his new tires.
Oh, that would have been a frightening scene. Carson Hocevar, early in the race, had some beef with Kyle Busch. It was very one-sided. It seemed like Kyle Busch was very angry at Carson Hocevar at one point there, and we'll dive into that a little bit momentarily from now. But yeah, stage one, of course, was a blast to watch. It was actually Josh Berry that picked up the win there, so great stuff for him. But it was looking like at the top 10 there was that mix of Chevrolets, Toyotas, Fords as well. Actually, important to note, Joey Logano, I think he was the one Ford that just seemed that it was really quick in qualifying, but whatever it was there, he just could not, he couldn't adapt to the rest of that race like his teammates could.
Yeah, I agree with that. He seemed to not be able to control the race like we usually see Logano do at super speedways, be up front, making those aggressive moves. He didn't seem to have the car for that in Atlanta, and it's actually kind of nice to see that somebody who is good at play tracks, maybe their car was set up the wrong way and he couldn't get to the front, or he couldn't dominate the race like he would want to, because it came down to the car actually mattering a little bit and the setup actually mattering. So again, it all goes back to somehow New Atlanta, not really new anymore, but somehow Atlanta now in the super speedway configuration has given exactly what the fans want. And you look 3 years ago, everybody wanted to chop off somebody's head for that decision, and I still wish it would have been a different track. I think many others agree that I wish it would have been Texas or Texas is the only other one I could think of that I'd want it to happen to. But still, I'm kind of glad they did it. I'm glad they tried it, but I hope to God it goes to no other tracks.
I still wonder what the plan is when the track starts to really get rough and or age, and then things start to spread out more. Like, is
Yeah,
NASCAR going to try and do something with the tire or something to try and keep them together, or are they going to say, okay, we're going to open this up and have a, like an actual intermediate track package back on the cars, and let them race that way? Like, I'm very curious to see, because I could see it going either way.
yeah, I agree. It is going to be interesting to watch to see how the track ages and what NASCAR does with it as it ages. I mean, it's aging really quickly. We're 3 years in, and there's already patches being put in. There's bumps forming. I mean, I think even last year they had patches on the track and areas on the track where they had to come in and do a little bit of work to it. So the Georgia sun is not being kind to that pavement at all, and I hope that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for the pavement and for the potential for the racing to change. I just hope NASCAR doesn't eventually freak out and change it to where we get, I don't know, reduced horsepower and they get into just a pack like it's Daytona and Talladega now, and we see nothing like we're seeing currently. Or I don't know. I don't know if they'll open it up and give more horsepower, and then we turn back into an intermediate, like you said. I don't know. That's again for future. But I hope we don't get something really stupid with it. But it is NASCAR, so are my hopes high? Not really.
I think it'd be really interesting if they did open it up to like a intermediate package, because like with the way the banking is now, um, and I feel like they'd probably be still going, like, of course the surface is going to be quite aged, but I feel like they'd be still carrying some really good speed around there, and I feel like it could make both corners of the racetrack really treacherous, with that kind of package in terms of handling and just losing your car.
Yeah, I don't know if NASCAR would ever do that because they're refusing to also open it up on the regular mile and a half as well. They're refusing to give them enough horsepower to have uh any kind of out of controlness in the corners and any kind of just overall the car is out of control because we have a lot of horsepower. So I doubt they would go with that, but it'd be nice if they would.
I agree. We'll see how that goes in like 5 years from now, maybe even sooner. The track continues to wear quickly. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to watch how that track changes over the next 2-3 seasons, and in the trips that we make there. And we go back there again in the playoffs. Or no, I don't think it's a playoff race anymore. Isn't it
No,
a
it's not a
regular
playoff.
season race?
No,
Yeah.
it's in I think it's in August or late July this year, so it's still in the regular season.
Yeah, I'm very curious now. Let me look. It's June 28th.
Oh, it's in June. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely in the regular season.
Right at the start of summer, basically. So that'll be. So you're gonna go from you're gonna go to a really interesting run of racetracks actually there in that kind of area. You go Mexico, then you go to Pocono, then you go to Atlanta, then you go to Chicago Street Course, and then Sonoma actually. So there's 3 road courses in 5 weeks right there. So we do half of our road courses of the entire year in a 5 week span, which is interesting. I mean, I like Chicago and Mexico. Well, I don't know if I like Mexico yet because we haven't seen a race there, but
yeah, like the idea of it.
I like the idea. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting stretch.
This is getting ahead of, and on a different topic I just want to bring up for a second. I was just checking through on the schedule for later this year. There is only 4 races on actual NBC. The rest are on USA. That is devastating.
I see the last
I never
3.
noticed that till now. That is, and then Daytona, the cutoff race.
Oh, of course it is.
The rest are on USA. That's. I want to love NBC, but you can't do that, man.
Well, at least
Anyways, that's way off topic.
stellar Final Four Phoenix Raceway is on NBC.
Yeehaw!
With the great racing that they get there, I'll be excited for that one. I guess let's get back to Atlanta. Kyle Larson won stage 2, his first ever stage win on a plate track. He ended up in contention.
Which is crazy to say.
That I thought he won a stage already there.
As did I. I know he's been
speedway,
rough at plate tracks, but I agree. I feel like he had won at least one already, but apparently not. So I guess he heard Jeff Gordon's comments this week and at least
that was
tried
my
to get
first
a stage
thought.
win.
I was like, oh, he listened. It almost worked out in the end. He ended up second or third? Third, because Hocevar
Third.
ends up second there, in Atlanta. So I mentioned Carson Hocevar. We'll talk about. Let's talk about the easy option of the drivers first, or I guess we should probably talk about the actual finish of the race, and we'll move on to that. So, we get in the final stage. Of course, you see a little bit more chaos here and there. Hocevar ends up turning Ryan Blaney. You get a crash with that. Earlier in the race, Daniel Suarez as well had a big crash and collected multiple drivers with just a bad move on his part, unfortunately. And then, of course, we had the Larson and Cindric deal, and we'll touch on that more momentarily. But then you get to the actual ending of this race, and still great racing all throughout. It was a blast to watch. There wasn't a single moment in this race where I was bored. I think they, if I remember correctly, they did fan out to single file very briefly at one point in the race. I think it was earlier. I think it was in like the first stage when you had all the Fords together. But it didn't last long. It was like a couple minutes, and then they were back racing at it. But there was a very brief moment there. I was concerned. I was like, oh no, like, are we gonna do this all stage long? But it seemed like they got it sorted out. I don't know if you remember that at all.
I slightly remember the feeling of being like, dear God, they're getting single file. So I do think it was early in the race. But I don't remember when, and I don't remember how long it lasted. But I'm pretty sure you're right. It didn't last very long.
I went to watch the NASCAR, their channel. I went to watch the extended highlights just to like refresh myself with the race. And whoever edits their highlights video is just they need to put me in their position or something, because they are not good. They went and they showed like the first lap of the race, and then nothing. It cuts straight to lap like 40, and it's a restart. They didn't show why there was a restart. They didn't show anything. I was like, what? Are you not going to show this? Was there a debris caution? I don't know. I don't remember what the first caution of the race was, but it just cut straight to the restart, and they're like, okay, I guess we're just restarting now. I have a timeline on the NASCAR app, and it shows that the first caution
was that not for the
it was for the stage
Gibbs thing?
No, it was for the stage. So it was the first restart.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
guess,
right. The first
the
stage was only like 40 laps, and the next one was 60 or something like that.
So they didn't even show Josh Berry winning the stage. They were just like, we're just going to skip from lap 1 to the start of stage 2.
The difference in NASCAR social between their post on like Twitter and Instagram and what have you is insane, because you look at the post there and you're like, holy crap, they are on top of it. They make glorious graphics. They make really fun and interesting edits. And then you go to their YouTube site, and their YouTube site is stuck in like 2009. It has been for years. Aside from the thumbnails they're getting better, but the actual videos and the editing and style and all that stuff it's not great.
I'm just looking through their channel right now, and I don't like their new thumbnails for the highlights and stuff. Like,
they're not as
there
good
needs
as
to be
they
more
were
race cars
last year and the year before. The 75 graphics, and then last year with the graffiti, they're so good. They're not great this year, but yeah,
I know it's nitpicking,
see what you mean about
but
more
like,
race cars.
Like over half of the thumbnail is just a big white box with big bold words. I'm like, show more of the race cars. Like, there's a race car there, but like, make it larger. But yeah, we're just nitpicking here. So let's get back towards the end of this race. One incident I did forget. There was the Eric Jones spin into the inside wall. Chase Elliott as well. The contact with Stenhouse and Briscoe, and then Stenhouse looked like he kind of came down on Briscoe a little bit. And then of course he slides up into Chase Elliott and broke his toe link, and then Keselowski had nowhere to go and just drove right into the back of the 9. And obviously ended their days, which was unfortunate for those two. And then we go to the end of this race, and we get to that final lap, and I was worried the whole time that there was gonna be a crash, and I was like, they're gonna crash at some point on this final lap. Of course they have to, and sure enough, they end up piling in, and crashing, I don't know, 7-8 cars at least. It would have had to been somewhere in around that number. Josh Berry.
Somewhere around that.
Josh Berry was like the main one that got taken. I don't even know what happened. I still don't know. I was too like lost in the sauce. I haven't looked at the replays. I don't even know what actually happened in this crash. But I know Josh Berry was like the main one that got crashed, and then I can't remember who else was involved. I was too caught up in the finish and being annoyed with race ending under caution.
I don't think I ever looked up the crash. I don't think I've looked it up or even looked at it a single time. I got annoyed with the inconsistency of NASCAR. That's where I tunnel visioned on, and I haven't looked at it since.
I'm gonna look up a video, and then as I do that to fill space, we'll talk about how Elton Sawyer did say following the Xfinity race that they got it wrong, and if there was a crash similar to that on the final lap of the Cup race, they would throw a caution. I was happy that they said, here's what we're going to do, but I was also annoyed again because at the same time, I mean, we have this, what is Elton Sawyer? Is he the competition director? Is that what he is? Or what's his actual name of his role?
I actually don't know what role he's in nowadays, because I thought it was Hamilton. I thought was the competition director, but maybe that's for the Xfinity series. I don't remember now.
SVP. What is SVP?
Senior Vice President.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Senior Vice President he is. But so I was pretty annoyed that we had the Senior Vice President of NASCAR publicly and voluntarily say we are going to be inconsistent with what we just did last weekend and the night before. I don't know. I took a problem with that, where as just we have our own leaders of the sport just saying, yeah, we're going to be inconsistent on this call that we make.
Oh, he's the Senior Vice President of competition of NASCAR.
Oh, okay, so he does focus on the
basically, yeah.
But I imagine you agree. I was just frustrated with the voluntarily saying, hey, we are going to be inconsistent here.
Yeah, I get my feelings on this are really mixed, and I think the only way to sum it up is NASCAR's inconsistency is really annoying, because for years now their policy has been, there's a crash on the last lap, especially at super speedways, we're gonna throw the yellow. That's what we've all expected. It's disappointing when it happens. You're annoyed when it happens, especially if it's setting up for a good finish, but that's the way it's always been. That's what we've all come to expect. It's been that way for I don't know how many years. Now we come into this year, that's not even a topic of conversation. It's not a thing they've discussed changing, but we get to the duel on Thursday. The caution was thrown when it shouldn't have been. They were a half a second away from the line. Fans react. NASCAR either listened to the fans or overreacted themselves or whatever. We get to Sunday in the 500. They don't throw a yellow after throwing a yellow again on Saturday for the Xfinity race. Or they did not throw a yellow for that one, whichever one it was. There's so many it's whatever. They're so inconsistent, I'm messing up their inconsistencies now. Anyways, we move on to the next week. The topic is still there. They don't throw a caution on Saturday, but then they say they will. That was a mistake. They will throw one on Sunday. Okay, that's fine. I understand your policy is to throw a caution when wrecks happen on the final lap, especially at super speedways. I don't know how you can mess that up on Saturday when you've done it for so long. I don't know how that can. I don't know how you can look at that and be like, well, we've done this for years. We suddenly had this drama pop up in the past week, and we mess up on Saturday. We're not going to do that again on Sunday. My frustration is with NASCAR solely. Just make it where there's going to be a caution no matter what on the last lap. It doesn't matter if they're 100 foot from the line or if they're just crossing the line. Either make it where there's going to be a yellow always or there's never going to be one. Because if you don't draw that line in the sand, like we have talked about with previous rules, if you don't draw that line in the sand and you leave it up to a judgment call, you're going to piss people off. You're going to make the wrong decision. You're going to get drama. Just draw a line in the sand somewhere and stick to it, please.
I was trying to find the replay or just see that last lap crash, and the extended highlights video only showed the part where the 21's crashing down the banking and it cuts to the finish and then the video's over. So I still don't know what happened. But we know Josh Berry definitely crashed in this race. And I one thing I wanted to mention is I found it kind of funny how, and it's not been egregious, but I've seen NASCAR milking this a little bit of the 20, the 77, and the 5 coming across the line 3 wide for the finish.
Yeah,
And I'm like, they
yeah,
were under caution rolling half throttle to the line.
yeah.
If that. And, look at this 3 wide finish. I'm like, you're kidding, right? I found that very humorous all week because I've seen it a few times, and I'm looking at their YouTube, and they've got a few thumbnails already of it of them crossing the line 3 wide at half throttle under caution when yellow was out for 10, 15 seconds just about beforehand. But yeah, we have our negative things to say about the race, but at the end of the day, overall, Jay and I, like we already both agree, overall the race was phenomenal. I loved every second of it right up until that last lap caution. It sucked, but outside of that, I thought the race was fantastic. And outside of that last caution, I don't think I would have wanted that race any other way.
No, I agree with that. I think the race overall was really good. I enjoyed pretty much, like you said, pretty much every second of it until the final lap, until the final couple of corners. And then, we had the drama, which, again, shouldn't be drama. It should just be, oh, crap, that was a wreck. We're disappointed because there was yellow, but that's how NASCAR's always done it. But I think that now, I think, I don't know if it was just new year, new season, I don't rust or whatever, but I feel like from now on we're going to get yellows on the final
I
lap
agree.
if
I
there's a
think they'll
wreck.
be on it now.
I think we're done with this now. I think they're going to be on top of it. So hopefully we have no more of that drama, and we can come back here in June and have a really fun race with a really fun finish, and enjoy a good NBC booth as well.
I agree. End of the day, I'd rather have drivers be safe than my entertainment for last lap racing. So
I have never
throw the
clamored
caution.
for let them race back on the last lap. I've never, and I am still not. I am not advocating for that at all. I'm just advocating for NASCAR to be consistent in whatever they decide, and they are so bad at being consistent. So I don't know. I'd like to think that we're not going to have any more drama on this, but will we? Yeah, probably.
I don't think we'll have to worry about it in COTA, at least.
No, hopefully not.
By the way, we've done 2 full races now, and we haven't had a single round of green flag pit stops, which is interesting.
Yeah. I think that'll change this weekend.
That will absolutely change this weekend. There's no way it doesn't.
Well, you never. The new layout, they might get really stupid with it. You never know.
That is true.
Depending on how turn 6A is, you never know.
As far as I'm aware, turn 6A is that weird hairpin from
It is.
everything that I read today. So, but before we move on to COTA, let's talk about 2 of the main kind of talking points out of that race, which was 2 drivers in specific. We'll start with Kyle Larson and his moment with Austin Cindric that, of course, led to Cindric and William Byron both out of the race with only a couple laps to go. I think it was 3 laps to go when this happened, and Jay brought this up originally. Where Austin Cindric, the move that Kyle Larson made on Austin Cindric made a similar one, maybe not as egregious, but similar a few laps prior. Larson, of course, is going to get out of that, backs out of it, and then Larson decides he's going to put Austin Cindric in the same type of scenario. Basically, what we saw was that the classic Denny Hamlin next-gen move, where basically you are not lifting, you're taking the spot, and he's basically putting the driver on the receiving end. He's putting their fate in their hands of, are you going to back out and keep going, or if you try to keep going, I'm basically going to make sure that you're in the wall and probably crashing. And obviously, Jay, we saw how that ended up going. But I mean, what's your take on that? It's a move that we see like in so much in this next gen era, and Denny Hamlin kind of made it kind of a common or popular thing to do. I wouldn't say popular. I don't think anyone likes it, but it's certainly a move that we see specifically to this next gen car.
I will say, to piggyback off of what you were mentioning a second ago with the Cindric version of it first, His version was a lot less egregious. It still was a block, and Larson still had to back out of the throttle, but he did it well before Larson was to his back bumper, so there was plenty of time for Larson to react. And Cindric didn't throw it as egregiously. I will say I think Larson's was a bit more. I'm just gonna sling this thing in here, and I'm coming up whether I'm clear or not, and that's pretty much exactly what he did. And yeah, Cindric did have every opportunity to let out of the throttle
But you don't let
give up
out
the
at that
position
point.
to Larson. But yeah, you're aggressively racing. You're not gonna let out of the throttle when a guy is just slung it in there and is just, no matter what, I'm coming up in front of you. You're not just gonna let him do that to you. You don't want to give up the spot. You don't want to be raced like that. You're not just gonna give it up to them. If you both go crashing, well then there you go. That's why you shouldn't have made that move. Unfortunately for Cindric, he's the only one that goes crashing. I think he would have been okay if Byron wasn't there. I still don't really know what William Byron was doing.
He just maybe thought he was going to be closer to the wall or something.
Cindric
But
was
he was still in
basically
line with the 5.
in the wall. He was still basically in the wall when Byron hit him. So I don't really know what Byron was doing there. I'm not really sure why he just came up to tag team and take him out and take himself out.
Yeah, I'll finish him.
That's the part that I was really confused about. I don't really know why Byron did that. I think Cindric obviously would have had damage or maybe a flat tire or whatever on the right side, lost momentum, whatever. I don't think he would have been out of the race with that move if it hadn't been for Byron. But still, it's caused by Kyle Larson and just slinging it in there and not really caring he's coming up no matter what. So, like you said, kind of a Denny Hamlin style move. It is a move that we've seen a lot in the next gen car. I don't know what to make of that other than yay, next gen, hard to pass. Probably wasn't needed here. I don't think that was not the only way to pass, but Larson saw the opportunity to do it. He tried it. It put Cindric in the wall. It worked for Larson. It didn't work for Cindric. So I guess for him it was good, but I don't know if Cindric is going to keep that in the back pocket and remember that for any time he races Kyle Larson later on in the year. But
I think he's way too nice for
Larson.
that.
It worked, I guess. So yeah, you're probably right. I doubt he will, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it was at the end of the day, that was the responsibility, and he did take full responsibility, but that was all on Kyle Larson in that scenario. You're still the one shoving him up towards the wall. I did listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast on it just out of curiosity and just from a driver's point of view. Maybe not the best driver to take the point of view from, as he's the one that's perfected the move, but he talked about how when you get the car into the spot that Larson got, like when someone's right on your right rear, it like basically pulls your car also into them.
Yeah,
which
we
was
also,
interesting.
I mean, iRacing is not exactly an exact copy of real life, right? But we get that a little bit in iRacing too. So
Yeah,
I
you're
would
just you're
imagine
chasing
that
the car
translates
up
over
at
to
that
real
point.
life.
So
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, you understand that, but also okay, the driver knows it's going to happen. So why are you still committing to that at the same time? I guess you're just hoping. I think it's more of a hope. You're hoping you're going to get clear, and it's a risk that you're willing to take.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, Jay, they're
that's
racing
like
for
any
the
slide
win.
job move, any
Yeah.
move we've seen like that in whatever car, whether it be Xfinity truck, Gen 6, whatever. We've seen that all the time. Moves exactly like that, where you're just throwing it in there, hoping you're going to be clear.
Yeah, you're racing for the win with a couple laps to go. More often than not, I think, I'm going to take it if I think, I might be able to clear this guy right here. I'm probably going to try to do the same thing, instead of play the safe route.
Yeah.
So, again, see both sides to it. Obviously, still, Kyle Larson screwed up, and obviously got his teammate wrecked, got Cindric cleaned out in the process.
Well, you say
his teammate wrecked himself.
I don't think he screwed up. He was just stupidly aggressive, is what it was. He didn't necessarily screw up. He was just being wildly aggressive, and no matter what, I'm coming up, and if I'm not clear, you're going in the wall. If you don't back out, you're going in the wall. I wouldn't really call it messing up.
Cars crashed. But
Cargo crash, cargo burn.
Cars did crash a lot at the end of that race, and not this week off of the bumper of the 41 of Cole Custer. I didn't even see him in Atlanta. Actually, I don't even know. Was he in the race?
I don't think I did either.
Where did Cole Custer finish in this race? Actually, I'm curious because I don't remember.
Let's take a look.
Seeing him.
Let's see results. Let me scroll for about 5 minutes here, and I'll eventually find him. Oh, that was mean. I'm sorry. 36th.
Well, there you go.
He was.
I don't know how he finished.
I would say he was obviously crashed at some
Maybe
point.
he was in the Suarez crash.
Potentially. I'm seeing if I can find how many laps down he was, but I don't think the NASCAR app shows that.
NASCAR
they're
app
really nice.
would never do something like that.
What do you mean? The NASCAR app is the best sports app we have.
Speaking of laps down, Michael McDowell was 6 laps down at the start of this race after having a mechanical issue. They went in and fixed it. He ended up nearly in the top 10. He ended up 13th place on the lead lap. How about that? He got really lucky. Just with the cars that were also going a lap down through cautions and accidents, just ended up going more laps down than McDowell did. So he was able to get the free pass every time and get himself nearly into a top 10 result, which is quite impressive there for that 71. I am interested to see how Spire is going to do this year, because it seems like they're really putting obviously more effort or more resources into that team. They seem to be a lot closer to HMS. So you have to wonder, Jay, like, the first 2 races of the year with super speedways and is not a great indicator on and where a team's actually going to stack up. But if you look at the first couple races, I mean, obviously Hocevar is up there. McDowell rebounds to 13th. They've been looking pretty good for 2 super speedway races at least.
Yeah, I have to say I'm really impressed with Spire's investment into themselves and into the
I used to
sport
hate that
overall.
team.
I mean, yeah,
They didn't seem like they wanted to
and
be like a competitive team.
exactly, they came in and seemed like they just kind of wanted to be there and not really ever try. And suddenly last year or maybe the year before, they're suddenly they have truck teams, cup teams, multiple of each, and top drivers in them, and big sponsorships and all this, and working with Chevrolet and Hendrick now, and a close relationship and all this stuff. Spire has really, really grown on me, has really grown on the sport, obviously, and they have acquired a lot of talent in both the Truck Series and the Cup Series. I don't think they have anything Xfinity wise, but uh, they are a not a contender organization yet, but they definitely have the talent. They have the cars to win races. So like you said, impressed with them for the first 2 weeks through the super speedways. Uh, gonna have to continue to see how that trends over the rest of the season as we get into more of our traditional racetracks. Road course isn't really traditional, so even if they have a good weekend this weekend, is it really going to show a whole lot? Maybe, maybe not. Road courses are a bigger part of the schedule nowadays, but we're really not going to see, I think, a lot out of teams until we get to places like Vegas and we get into more of the short tracks and 1.5 mile portion of the season.
We got Phoenix, Vegas, Miami, Martinsville all coming up after COTA. So, and then actually Darlington, Bristol, and then we go to Talladega. But some good races on the way with the 1.5 miles and some short tracks kind of sprinkled on in there. It's going to be an exciting run. And then we'll also get to see kind of where each team's going to really stack up for this season heading in towards the playoffs. Hopefully Trankhouse looks a bit better than they did last year. That would be nice to see. But let's talk about...
I think you're going to be disappointed with that one.
What do you mean?
They truly are Chip Ganassi. They're just rebranded Chip Ganassi.
I think you're a hater.
No, I'm not at all.
I heard you hate Shane Van Gisbergen.
Oh, I can't stand the guy, actually. I got his signature, and then I went home and burned it.
Yeah, we met Shane Van Gisbergen at Daytona in 24 hours, and we met Connor Zilish. That was very cool. Connor Zilish making his debut this weekend. We'll talk about that in the Circuit of the Americas talk. Shane Van Gisbergen got taken out, I think it was in the last lap crash, but he still ended up like 23rd.
I believe he was wrecked before then, I thought. I could have sworn there was a moment where I saw him involved in a crash, and I was disappointed because he was
weeks, running up front too.
In a row, he was getting a wreck. Yeah, I think there was a moment where he got close to leading, or maybe he did lead a lap or two in there somewhere.
I think he led one or two, but he was right up there with Chastain for that good portion to start stage 3. And he did look a little...
In fact, I have
on.
the last lap. I have a video of the last lap pulled up right here, and I'm pretty sure I see him just outside the top 10. So I'd imagine he was involved in that crash.
Yeah, because he was running better than 23rd. He's
just outside the top 10.
Yeah. So, again, gets taken out. Welcome to the Cup Series, Shane Van Gisbergen. You get
welcome
cleaned
to
out.
Speedways.
This world-class driver getting wiped out by these clowns. But still, 23rd after a last lap crash. I guess you'll take it. And he'll move on to COTA.
No, that's not the last lap.
Oh.
I'm dumb. That's the Cindric and Larson crash.
Oh,
Still,
okay.
He was close to the top 10, so something happened where he fell or lost a lot of positions.
Hopefully he does well. He should do well in COTA. I mean, he ran okay there last year, but then he was in that colleague car, of course, so not great to begin with. But then they also had some, I think it was a brake issue he was having throughout that race, or a throttle issue. So there was one of the pedals that was a problem, and then he ended up. I think he also got one of those corner cutting penalties. Or no, that was in Xfinity that he got that. But that's going to be interesting this weekend with the whole corner cutting thing again through the S's. That was so stupid last year. I wonder if they're doing it again.
Yeah, I imagine they will be.
That was like, you can go 5 car widths off this racetrack, but if you go over the inside of this curbing by a foot, we're going to penalize you.
And not only that, there was, I think it was the last corner or two in the S's where they were allowed to cut it so much they literally dug a hole in the ground and threw dirt all over the place. But that was allowed for some reason. So the cutting
made
stuff
no
is
sense.
really stupid.
It's crazy. And I would imagine they'll keep the same rules for this weekend. Hopefully not. Hopefully they just have at it, go for it. But we'll wait and see what happens. Usually we don't really find out until the actual race is happening, what's going on there. So we'll go back to Atlanta briefly. Specifically, Carson Hocevar found himself in some hot water, I guess, early in the race with Kyle Busch. From what I heard, never really had a legitimate video of what happened. It just sounded like he was.
I don't know if they actually
racing
showed
him hard.
what he did.
It sounded like he was just racing Kyle Busch really hard for really early in the race.
There was some moves he apparently pulled based on what Kyle said. He tried a couple of moves and it really did not sit well with Kyle Busch, and apparently didn't sit well with others as well. But I think. I don't know if I ever saw the actual. I don't think any of the videos I saw were any of the actual moves that Hocevar pulled, unless I'm just not remembering. But I do know that Kyle Busch was very unhappy. That's probably the most unhappy I've heard Kyle Busch in quite a while over the radio.
Not quite as unhappy as Martinsville 2010 with Jimmy Johnson, however. But then you had of course, crash with Ryan Blaney. I mean, there's not much to say on that one. He just flat out drove into the back of him at the number one spot you don't, and cleaned him right out.
I don't really.
There's not much to say there. That was just stupidity, really.
Yeah, I think Hocevar or somebody on his team tried to claim that he thought Blaney was gonna be up a little bit further, so he wanted to push him a bit further. But
why would he hit him
first of all, you're
going into the entrance?
Corner. Yeah, you're going into the corner, first of all, and secondly, Blaney was set up on that line the entire time, and Hocevar just kind of drove up and boop, right out of the way and turned him around. So, yeah, Hocevar, he drives without his head a lot, I think. That's for sure.
I would agree. And then there was the last restart where the first thing he did was he hung out Chastain. They took it he went 3 wide middle, I think it was, to get around Chastain. So he immediately destroyed the inside line's momentum. I personally I didn't really have a problem with that move, because I'm he's trying to go win the race, go for it.
Yeah, no.
I was surprised that I know he's Chastain's his biggest mentor. I was a bit surprised he hung him out immediately, but I thought it was fine. I thought that was okay. I when I was all lost in the sauce of the finish, I didn't realize. So obviously he still ends up nearly winning the race, but out of turn 2 final lap, I didn't realize that he squeezed up Stenhouse and Barry into the wall out of turn 2.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that happened until I was listening to the Dale Jr. Download earlier in the week, and I was like, oh, okay. I was not really surprised. It's just how he drives. And then, of course, that leads to the crash that we have on the last lap. So Carson Hocevar, he's an interesting one. And to me, Jay, and this is where I'm going to go on my rant, is it's crazy the amount of defending this Carson Hocevar gets from people on Twitter and whatnot. People love the way he races, and I'm I understand that he's going for his first win and he's racing hard to go get that first win. And I understand that we want drivers to be aggressive, and I love aggressive racing, but to me, there's a big difference between a young guy that's being aggressive and a young guy that's just bulldozing through everybody and driving like an idiot. And I think that's where Carson Hocevar, in my eyes, currently lands, is on the driving like an idiot side, not driving aggressive.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think if you look back to the Chastain days of his terrorism on the Cup Series, it was a lot of just aggressive moves, a lot of racing for the win, a lot of racing hard, and maybe you could argue Hocevar is in the same category, but it just feels different. It looks different with Hocevar. Something about it just he's just being too
How many
aggressive,
times does
doing
he
things
right
that
hook
don't
someone?
need to be done. Just done stupid things like that. Where maybe he didn't do anything specifically like that at Atlanta this weekend, but he was driving like a bit of a moron. There was the incident with Blaney where you could call that was just, I mean, unnecessary, stupid, dumb, whatever. But just something about the way that Hocevar makes these moves, the things that he does, it just screams, I don't care about the consequences. I will drive through you if I have to. I will turn you. I don't care. Move out of my way. I'm better than you. And I mean, it might turn into a Chastain situation at some point where the Cup Series drivers are going to have enough.
He will find
they're
out.
all going to start. Yeah, they're all going to start ganging up on him and being like, "You get no breaks. I am not giving you a single bit of, or I am going to race you with full aggression. I am not going to give you anything. You're going to have to take it. I am going to move you out of the way, put you in the wall, wreck you, whatever." I think they'll get fed up with it enough at some point eventually. But yeah, like you said, I like aggressive drivers. I like aggressive driving. You want them to be all over each other. You want them to make mistakes. You want them to make aggressive moves sometimes. But I think Hocevar just takes it beyond aggression and just straight up wrecking because he can.
Yeah, he doesn't really care about the consequence, nor his car or other cars in any of those scenarios that he's been in the past.
And you mentioned he gets so much defending and everybody likes him and whatever. I think it's mainly because he's one of the few drivers in the Cup Series who actually has some kind of personality, has some kind of online presence, has a connection with the fans, whether it be tweeting on Twitter or his streams on Twitch. I mean, during the 500 delay, the guy is going and racing in iRacing while he's in his fire suit still. And so having that online connection and that personality with the fans and all that stuff is going to gain him a following. It's going to gain him support, all that kind of stuff, which is what we want to see more out of all of the drivers, not just one or two of them. We want to see more of that out of everybody, so that everybody shows their personality, shows why they should be liked and whatnot. And so that's perhaps why he gets a bit of defending, because he's one of the few that actually has connectability with the fans. And of course, they're going to defend the guy they like, because why wouldn't they?
I would love to defend him myself, because you bring up great points of how interactive and engaging he is in his personality. So I would love to be a fan of his, but I just I can't when he drives like that.
Yeah, I think off the racetrack, I like Carson Hocevar.
Yeah, he's cool. He's like
funny,
a Chastain for me.
I think he's cool. Yeah, but just when he gets in a race car, it's like, okay, I can't like this guy for the next couple hours. He's just gonna drive like an idiot. He's gonna wreck my guy. He's gonna do something dumb that wrecks somebody else. Like, just clean it up a little bit.
And he's shown before that, and not on one occasion, multiple occasions, that if you race him the same way, he's just going to right rear you. I mean, we've seen him parked in multiple truck races.
Yeah.
Didn't he right rear someone under caution in a Cup race? I can't remember if that happened or not.
I don't think that was a Cup race. I thought that was a truck race where he'd done that before.
I don't know.
I believe he has done that at least once.
It's unbelievable, the things he's done. But it'll be interesting. Like I said, you can do that, but on the Cup grid, you always end up finding out the consequences to that type of racing. Like Jay said, and like I said, I love aggressive racing. I want drivers to be aggressive, but that's just simply not aggressive. That's just stupidity. And there's a big difference between the two. And he's on in my personal opinion, the side of stupidity currently. And hasn't left it since he's come into the Truck Series. So, who I look at, Jay, is like a perfect example of like an aggressive racer that doesn't cross into the stupid lane is like a Tyler Reddick or something. I think he's phenomenal and sets like the standard for if you're going to be aggressive, like that's who you want to be like, is like Tyler Reddick.
I think Cindric is another good example of that as well, because Cindric, especially at super speedways, like we were talking about earlier, he races aggressively. He sets himself to be at the front, and he makes moves, but he doesn't do it in a way that's going to wreck himself or get somebody else wrecked. He knows when, okay, I should not throw this block. I should not do this because I'll have another chance at it. Kind of like Hamlin was saying last week on his podcast. He was saying that, some drivers and Cindric especially has the mindset of, okay, I don't have to throw this right now because I will have another chance at him. There's still half a mile or still a mile left until we get to the finish line or on the last lap, whatever. So a driver like that is a good one, who's aggressive but knows when to not be stupid, is a good one. And I think Cindric is one of those drivers that Reddick I would agree with as well. Larson can be sometimes, but also
That's
also
a
loses
50-50
his mind.
with him.
And yeah, it really is. I think it kind of depends on who he's around. Because if he's around Hamlin, well,
it's gonna
all
go
brain
bad.
cells go out the window and they're gonna crash. But yeah, it's just all about how aggressive you want to be and being able to tone that down and realize when it's not going to work. There's no need for it right now.
I think Chase Elliott's been fairly good when it comes to aggressive as well.
Yeah, he used to be one of those that I think was aggressive all the time, and especially the first couple of years of being in the Cup Series, especially at super speedways too. He tried throwing Logano blocks. He tried.
Yeah, I think he realized he's not as good at it,
and they did not work. They did not work at all. They got him crashed every time, and he stopped it. He didn't do it anymore. He learned, and I don't think we're seeing that learning out of Carson Hocevar so far. So I just pulled up a second ago a video from last year in Martinsville. He had a little bit of contact with, I think it was either Tanner or Taylor Gray in the 17. They're going down the back straightaway, and he just turns dead right to try and hook the 17, and instead he wrecks himself.
There you have it.
It's just. I mean, you can almost make a compilation video that'll be 20 minutes of Carson Hocevar having incidents like that.
He's young. Hopefully he learns and grows up at some point. I think he will. I think he's got a lot of talent, so I do believe that he will figure it out and clean it up at some point, and honestly probably have a fairly successful Cup Series career. But yeah, it's just going to kind of take time, and you basically have to get taught some lessons. And I think the veterans will probably do a good job of that in the coming future, especially if he continues. I mean, the way he talked, Jay, was he has no intentions of changing how he races. So you're gonna find out.
He took zero responsibility. He didn't.
That was crazy. I was shocked by that.
He didn't show up to the cameras and be like, you know what? I was a bit aggressive. A lot of the drivers were unhappy with me. I'll go back and look at the film, see how aggressive I was. I'll change my mind a little bit. Instead, he was just kind of like, I don't care. I'm Carson.
I'm trying to win.
This is who I am. I'm gonna drive aggressively. I'm trying to win races. That's what you're gonna get out of me. To get used to it.
I'm trying to win. Jeff Gordon won 93 races. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, he didn't have to bulldoze people for every single one of his wins.
He wrecked Matt Kenseth one time.
I don't know. He wrecked Matt Kenseth a couple of times.
He did wreck Matt Kenseth.
Him and Kenseth. Him and Kenseth for a couple of years, they had their incidents together. That's for sure. I'm sure they weren't texting each other very often.
Well, probably not, because they didn't even have cell phones then. The number is in 2008, over 50% of NASCAR fans didn't even have a cell phone. I remember seeing the statistics. So I mean, what if Jeff Gordon didn't have a cell phone in 2008?
They are popular drivers making a shit ton of money that have to always be ready to answer a phone. I'm sure that they had cell phones. I'm glad that that's what you meant, and not that cell phones didn't exist, because that's what I thought you meant at first.
No.
And I, man, I was about to call you an absolute moron.
I'm aware cell phones have been around for a little while now.
Okay.
At least 10 years.
That's good.
Let's move on from that. And what do we even have left to talk about here? We talked about.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, like, there's been no during the week drama to go on.
No, not at all. The only drama is we don't know what the COTA layout's going to be officially
The
yet.
Coda
But
Briscoe got a penalty. That happened after the last podcast.
yeah,
They're
he's
appealing it.
like negative 60 points now, I think, after last weekend or something
Who
like that.
who could have
He didn't
possibly
gain very much.
Who could have possibly seen the car that was faster than everybody by a few
Yeah.
tenths suddenly end up illegal? Didn't see that one coming. Actually, I didn't see it coming, to be real, but I wasn't surprised by it happening. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's why they were so much faster than the literal second place car. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I mean, a pretty quiet week. So we'll jump into COTA. And that's pretty well it. We'll very lightly dive into IndyCar to follow. But Circuit of the Americas this weekend, brand new layout, basically cutting the track in half almost. So instead of like a 2.5 minute lap, we're now looking at around 1.5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. So I was messing around on iRacing, recording a video, and I did the layout that basically is the same layout, just that turn 6, you take the turn before that, so it's not a hairpin, and there's like a little like left hook on the short straightaway before you go into the long straightaway. It's kind of weird. But
Yeah, it's basically just short, or you just shoot straight through it, though. It's a
yeah,
quote unquote chicane, but you can just go straight through
oh
it.
yeah. But what I found was it feels so condensed, this version does, and there's not a lot of time to really get up to speed.
No, there's really not a lot of on throttle time at all.
It feels like the kind of purpose here is like, let's just kind of keep them bunched up, and they are just going to knock each other out of the way all race long.
And that's what that turn feels like as well, especially if it stays set up the way it is, where it's almost just a 90-degree straight left angle. If there's not any smoothing out there, if it's not a rounded out corner, if it's, hey, you're going to have to slow down to like 30 mile an hour and just turn directly left, then that's going to be almost like a Long Beach situation where it's just, in stock cars, you have a body in front of you. You have body work.
Oh, you're talking about the final lap? Are you talking about the final corner at Long Beach?
Yes.
Oh, it does kind of look similar to that. In a stock car. Good luck. Honestly, I think it looks even sharper with the angle.
Oh, it is. It is. That's why I'm hoping that they'll kind of smoothen the angle out and make it actually into like a turn and not just a, hey, you're going one direction.
It's like a triangle.
Left, you're going the other direction now. Yeah, it is a bit odd. I would imagine that's just a weird layout for the picture, though, that it'll be an actual smoothed out turn. But again, I think it's going to be a corner that NASCAR specifically wants to set up for chaos, and kind of like the new Roval turn, whatever it is, back onto the oval now, where it's just slow way down, get on the brakes heavy, sharp corner, get back on the gas.
Those dive bombs are fun to watch, though, at the Roval. I actually thought the Roval was a big step up.
I agree.
Year.
I do think that it was nice to have that corner. I think COTA is going to be a similar version of that, but with more incidents, though. I think it's going to be, I think it's set up to be even more of dive bomb city than the Roval corner was.
I don't think I've enjoyed a single COTA race since NASCAR's gone there. I enjoyed the 2021 one the most with the rain. I don't think it was the rain that made me enjoy it. It was just,
I feel
Gen
like
6 was just so good at road courses. So,
unless I'm remembering wrong, I thought the previous two COTA races were pretty decent for the Cup Series, at least. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I thought they were pretty good, though.
I don't remember. I think that's a telltale sign for me that I didn't care for it.
Good for next gen on the road course, anyways, because I don't feel like it was just a follow the leader parade lap like we've seen at Watkins Glen and Sonoma the last couple of seasons. I thought COTA was decent for the way road courses are currently, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
I mean, there was a wild finish there in 2022. Squirrel, so. Chastain.
Well, yeah.
Bulldozing two cars in front of him.
That wasn't a product of the track. That was a product of the driver.
That was a product of Ross Chastain. 2023, I think Byron won in 2023. And then Reddick won last year. Or am I thinking of it the other way around? Was it Reddick in 20?
I think it's the other way around.
Reddick in 23. No, did Tyler Reddick drive the 45 in 2023? Yeah, because Kyle Busch did.
So, yeah,
drive the 8. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember Tyler Reddick's first year at all at 23-11. Then.
No, maybe you are right. Maybe it was Reddick then, or maybe it was Byron then Reddick. I don't remember it. something like that.
I think it was
Somewhere
Reddick
around in
last
there.
year because he won that race and then he didn't win all the way until Miami in the play. It's hard to believe he only won twice. No, he won 3 times because he won Talladega. No, it had to have been 2020. It was 2023 that he won COTA because it was in the plain black monster car when he ran the Beast one all last year.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay,
That's what
yeah.
I thought.
And then so that means Byron had to have won it last year in 2024. So we'll see what the new layout brings then. But it'll be interesting to watch either way. And then we kind of get these first 3 weeks out of the way of 2 super speedways in a road course. And yeah, we're going to be 3 weeks into the season and still have no clue where really the teams actually stack up. I mean, road course is going to be a slight way to kind of get an idea. But the main talking point, I think, Jay, is Connor Zilisch making his Trackhouse Cup Series debut in the Red Bull 87. It turns out they are using that paint scheme that
I was just
honestly
about to say that.
I hate to say
Not a
it's
fan.
the worst Trackhouse paint scheme I've seen since the team has come into existence.
I was hoping that was just going to be for promotionals, but considering a few days after that they were still posting it and they were like, "All right, here's our liveries for our Red Bull races this year." Like, man, I'm not a big fan of the way that car looks.
They could have done
could
something so cool,
so much better. They could have done something. I mean, you think back to the old Red Bull days of the team in NASCAR. Those paint schemes were, I mean, phenomenal. They were so good. And I feel like the ones now are just, there's so much empty space. They're so boring. They're just kind of So
there's
yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Red Bull schemes.
on the side, and then there's just like, here's a white patch.
Yeah, like the weird white patch in the back makes no sense.
At least they put a sponsor on it now.
Oh, there actually is something on there now.
Yeah, I forget what it was, but there was a logo on there.
Because there's just, I mean, there's nothing anywhere else on the car. It's blank. It's just not matte. Yeah, matte dark blue. That's all it is. Navy blue.
I think SVG's also running that scheme this weekend. Pretty sure they're both running it.
I don't know actually. I'm not too sure.
I can't remember.
I don't know if they're running it at the same time or not.
We might see 2 Red Bull cars up front.
I have seen that, like, I forget if it was FanDuel. It was one of the betting things where they had Connor Zilisch as the second best odds to win this weekend. There's all this hype about him making his debut and how good he's going to be and all this stuff. I realize that Zilisch is, I mean, he's a phenomenal race car driver, especially for only 18 years old. He's going to be a star in the Cup Series one day. But making his debut this weekend at 18 with little NASCAR experience, we really think he has the second best odds to win this weekend? I mean, against the Cup Series guys where they've been running on road courses for how many years now, especially multiple road courses, I just don't see
I think they're basing it off of his Xfinity debut
to win this weekend. Okay, that's Xfinity. That's way different from Cup. He showed up in Xfinity and dominated everybody, but I'm not sure if there's that many in Xfinity I can point at that would be like, all right, let's send them to Cup, and they'll show up the Cup guys. There's
Casgrove.
I don't know if there's any in the roster. So it's I like Zilisch. I believe in the hype. I don't believe in the hype of him winning this weekend. It'd be cool
I think
if
he
I'm
can
wrong.
win.
I just don't think he has a chance to win this weekend. I really don't. I think a top 10 is probably best to hope for unless circumstances get funny and get stupid at the end. I do not think he's going to be a guy who shows up and dominates and contends and wins this weekend.
I think he can win. Do I think he will win? No. I will say if he did win, an 18-year-old coming in, I don't care.
Goodbye, Daniel Suarez.
I don't care if it's because of his road course expertise. That doesn't matter here. An 18-year-old coming in his debut. Like Shane Van Gisbergen came in at, 34, 35 and won on his debut, but he's got so much experience. You got this kid that's coming in at 18. If he was to do the same thing that SVG did and win in his Cup Series debut.
And not only that, SVG, when he won on the track NASCAR's never been to before, and he won when there was a lot of rain and a lot of just unnatural conditions. If Zilisch shows up to a track where they've gone to, this is their 3rd year. It is a new layout, but it is their 3rd year being there. If it does, 4th year, you're right, 4th year. And if it doesn't rain and he still wins, that's trouble for the Cup Series.
5-time champion, mark it right there. I'm all in on the Zilisch train if that happens. I mean, I'm already all in anyways, but he is my pick for the Xfinity race, at least. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that one.
It'll be interesting to see how he does. I think realistically, I would also say I think a top 10 would be a great day for his debut. Do I think he
Exactly.
can win?
Yes.
Absolutely. He has the talent, very much so, but you're going against all that experience. And I think his one advantage simply will be the new layout. So he's like, obviously, the Cup guys know Coda, but there's still going to be some relearning there that gives Zilich more of a
Yeah,
chance.
for sure.
But you're going up against all those guys with so much experience, and as well, they are not going to go easy on him whatsoever. So if they can use him up, if Carson Hocevar is within dumping range, it's going to happen.
When you think about it as well, when he ran his Xfinity race, not only was it the Xfinity series, he was in GRM equipment, which is arguably the best equipment in the Xfinity series. Trackhouse equipment is not Hendrick. It is not Joe Gibbs. It is not.
It's not what
Penske.
we all thought it was a
So
few years ago.
exactly. So it's another thing as well. The equipment could also be hindering him, which I mean, SVG showed up in Trackhouse and won a couple years ago, but again, like you said, it's not the same as it was a few years ago. So the equipment could also play into a factor there. But I think top 10 is a really good day for Zilich. I think that's the best we're going to see from him, unless stupidity and chaos plays out, which it definitely could with his layout. I don't think we're going to see Zilich show up and dominate and win, though. That's for sure.
So that wraps it up for Coda. We'll give our couple picks here in a few minutes, but we'll as well touch on IndyCar is back for the 2025 season this weekend at St. Petersburg. So a street course to kick off the season. I'm excited actually for the season
WEC is
of
also
IndyCar.
back this weekend.
WEC,
As well.
yeah, I did see some stuff going on with WEC this morning. I don't know where they're racing, but
they're in Qatar. They're on the new
okay.
Qatar track.
the street one?
Downtown. Yeah.
They're racing on a street course in WEC?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that track was already built. I thought that was a few years away.
I didn't think it was either, but I saw
They
the
work
other
fast
day,
over there.
Yeah, I saw the other day that they were in Qatar, and then I was looking at it, and it said Shakir Circuit, I think is the name of it. And I was like, isn't that the new one coming? And yeah, it sure enough it is.
Wait, Sakir, isn't that Bahrain?
Okay, maybe I'm getting the name wrong, but it was the street course.
WEC, and now I'm very curious. I'll have to look that up after. Oh, I see Qatar here. And are you sure it's the new track?
As far as I'm aware, it seemed like it was.
That looks to me like the normal Qatar.
I could
now
be
we're gonna
entirely
have
wrong.
to...
I could have sworn that it was the new one. I also looked at this when I was barely awake at like 9 o'clock this morning. So I could also be way wrong.
I got a video of it right now. No, that's normal Qatar.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry, yeah, that's the normal one.
I could have sworn that it said something about being in the on the new track, but maybe I'm wrong. Or well, I am wrong, I guess.
You are wrong.
Oops.
That's right.
Right,
You're getting an early glimpse at next year's WEC race and F1 race.
Well, no, it doesn't make sense though. I'm not sure they would race on a street course. So, no,
No.
you are right. I'm not sure they would do that.
It's like they're gonna do like a 8-hour race on a street course. But yeah, IndyCar's back too. And it's first race with the Fox broadcast. That will be interesting to see. Actually, they got a great broadcast lineup though with Will Buxton, James Hinchcliffe, and then Townsend Bell. So it should be pretty solid. Townsend Bell. It won't be to the level of Lee Diffie being, calling IndyCar, but I think Will Buxton's a solid replacement. And have you seen the Fox graphics that they're going to be using, like for the leaderboard, and they even got like that halo thing that F1 has with like the speed and the gears and stuff?
Okay, so no, I haven't seen the official ones in because I kept seeing concepts and things, and I came across one a week or two ago that I thought was the actual real one for a second, and it looked pretty good, but then I saw like, no, this is a concept. So no, I haven't seen the real ones, but I've seen concept of what they could look like.
Well, the real ones look really good.
Where did you see that?
I saw them somewhere on Twitter. I don't remember.
That really helps. Thank you.
I'll have to look it up after.
I'm sure I can just look up IndyCar graphics and I'll find it.
Either way, it will be interesting to see the actual race itself, and I don't really have like a IndyCar driver that I cheer for, so I can just kind of watch that race casually. And I mean, usually IndyCar racing is pretty exciting to watch, especially on the street courses, but just about anywhere. So I'm excited for the season and just watching whenever I can, but I don't really, I don't know. Let's give a winner pick on IndyCar first. I don't really know who to go with. I'm going to go with Scott McLaughlin.
I'm not really sure who to go with either. I keep up with IndyCar, but not in the sense of I know every driver move and every team and who's going to be dominating.
I don't know which hybrid
stuff,
engine right now is looking better.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, how bad has IndyCar done with their chassis and the hybrid engine and everything? Again, totally different topic, but they have messed up with bringing in the Halo and the hybrid engine to a chassis that's going on 12 years old or whatever.
Yeah, they don't want to get away from that body.
Yeah, and it's insane because if they just made a new chassis and they incorporated the new stuff into it, it would make the racing a lot better. But anyways, that's a whole different topic. I feel like you can't go wrong picking Alex Palou in IndyCar, so I'm going to pick Alex Palou.
I forgot about him
this weekend. Yeah.
I guess that's a safe pick. I got McLaughlin. Newgarden won last year that race and then lost it, or right?
Yeah,
the
cheating. Yeah, that was last year.
So we'll see how that goes.
I think it was
this time
all
around.
Penske cars that were caught for that, or it
Yes.
was at least Newgarden and McLaughlin.
But Power didn't get a penalty or something because he didn't abuse the rule.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But we'll see how it goes this weekend. NASCAR side of things, I think, is trucks racing as well this weekend. I think they are.
No, trucks are off.
No?
It's just
okay.
Xfinity
They did COTA last year, I guess. Oh, you're right. Okay. Xfinity pick. Jay, I'm going with Connor Zilisch. You are allowed to pick the same person if you would like.
I will pick Connor Zilisch as well.
All right. Cup Series side of things. I would love to say Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's a lot of drivers that I look at now on the road courses, and you're like, man, this guy could win here. This guy could win here. Oh, there's Shane Van Gisbergen. This guy could win here.
I'm just thinking of who can survive the turn 1 chaos on the late race restart.
Yeah, turn 1 chaos. If there's any turn 6 chaos,
I'm gonna go with Shane Van Gisbergen anyways.
That's a fair pick. I think. I'm not going to go with Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm not going to have us pick the same guy for both races. For me, it's a toss-up between Reddick and Larson. And I don't know. I'm going to go with Kyle Larson.
Oh, wow, that's bold. We'll see how that works out. I would love to do a head-to-head count, but I have no clue who we picked last week.
I know
Atlanta.
I picked.
Well, we got Xfinity right.
Heim for trucks, and then Austin Hill for Xfinity. I cannot remember for the life of me who I picked for Cup, but obviously it's there in the podcast. We could go back and look and find it, I suppose.
We'll have a leaderboard next week to start because I know I'll be probably winning 30-6 or something by the end of the year.
Right. Okay.
We'll see who gets there. No, I think we're on the Cup side. I think we're 0-0. So I know I didn't pick Bell.
You're right. Did we make picks for the 500?
I don't know if we did. I don't think we did for the 500.
I don't think we did.
So
I feel like now that you said that Bell won, I feel like I might have chosen Bell last week. There's only one way to find out. Obviously, I can't fake that.
I'll look.
But I feel like I remember picking Bell.
I know
so
I
did 1-0 for me.
You're not 1-0. Okay, you're negative.
Okay,
You're a Chase Briscoe here. Yes. All right, there we have it. Nice and shorter episode today. We're going to try and keep all the episodes right around here, just a little bit over an hour going forward. And honestly, I'm impressed we got this much length out of the talking points that we had. But that's going to wrap it up.
We know how to yap, so.
We do know how to talk, and we will continue to carry that talking knowledge into next week following Circuit of the Americas. Actually, you know what we're going to do here? Just to draw out an extra minute. My prediction for our talking point for next week is going to be the frustration with late race cautions and drivers just sailing it off into turn 1 and not caring about the cars in front of them, and they just bulldoze each other.
I feel like one of the talking points is going to be, wow, that turn 6 was really dumb. They did a lot of dumb things there, but this layout overall is pretty fun.
I think we'll maybe talk about both of those next week. There we have it. That's going to wrap it up for Jay and I here on the GOWEN Racing Podcast, episode 3. of the 2025 season. Thank you for listening. We will see you guys next week. Have yourselves a great day.